What if I told you your thoughts might not even be yours? That the constant stream of worries, doubts, cravings, and distractions could be part of a system designed to keep you asleep? Imagine living inside a prison so vast, so invisible, that most people never even realize they're trapped. A prison without walls, a cage woven into reality itself. This is the vision of the Gnostics. And tonight, we're going to uncover their buried warning about the Archons, the cosmic jailers who rule the illusion you call reality. Stay with me, because once you hear this, you won't be able to unhear it. The story begins in 1945, deep in the Egyptian desert, when a farmer digging for fertilizer struck something solid, a clay jar. Inside, wrapped in leather, were 13 ancient codices, over 50 texts written in Coptic. This was the Nag Hammadi Library. For centuries, these books had been hidden, suppressed, nearly erased from history. Why? Because they contained the forbidden Gospels, words of Jesus and his disciples that the church did not want you to read. Among them, the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Philip, and strange writings that spoke of the cosmos in ways that sound almost alien. And hidden in these pages was a teaching that shook everything we thought we knew about reality. The Gnostics claimed that the world we live in is not the true creation of God. Instead, it's a counterfeit reality, a copy, crafted by lower beings called Archons. These Archons, led by the Demiurge, created the material world not as a gift, but as a prison. Their goal was simple: to keep humanity blind, trapped in ignorance, feeding off our energy. To most people, this sounds like myth or metaphor. But think about it. How often do you feel pulled into thoughts you didn't choose? How often do you catch yourself scrolling endlessly, buying things you don't need, drowning in shame or guilt that seem to appear out of nowhere? The Gnostics would say, those are the fingerprints of the Archons. So who are these beings? In the texts, they are described as cosmic rulers, mind parasites that cannot create on their own. Instead, they imitate, distort, and corrupt. They feed on fear, on confusion, on the energy of souls that have forgotten their true origin. Their leader, the Demiurge, is called the blind god. He boasts, "I am God, and there is no other." But the Gnostics laugh at him, because above him, beyond him, is the true source. Pure, infinite, unknowable light. From that source emanated Sophia, the divine wisdom. And it was through her fall that the Archons were born, malformed shadows of creation. Already the story sounds strange, even alien, and maybe that's why it was buried. But let's pause and ask, is it really so different from what we see today? A world obsessed with power, with endless consumption, with distraction at every turn. A system that thrives when you are anxious, exhausted, divided. The Gnostics didn't need social media to know the trap. They saw the pattern 2,000 years ago. But here's the twist. Inside every human being, they said, is a fragment of the true source, a divine spark, untouchable, eternal, hidden within. And the Archons cannot destroy it. They can only keep you from remembering it, because once you awaken, their power over you collapses. It's like realizing a nightmare isn't real. The monsters lose their teeth the moment you wake up. This is why Gnosis, direct knowledge, was the heart of their path. Not blind faith, not obedience, but remembering, awakening, seeing through the illusion. And here, where it gets interesting. The practices they taught sound strikingly familiar to things we are rediscovering today. Breathwork, meditation, fasting, observation of thought. The Gnostics knew that when you step back and witness your mind, you begin to see which thoughts are truly yours and which are echoes of the Archons. At this point, you might be wondering, why were these teachings so dangerous? Why did the church try to erase them? Because they shifted the power. If salvation is not in obeying an institution but in awakening the divine spark within, then the hierarchy collapses. No priest, no emperor, no external authority can control a soul that knows its own source. That's why these books were labeled heresy. That's why they were buried in jars and hidden in caves for 1,600 years. And yet, somehow they survived. And maybe that survival is part of the story. Maybe they resurfaced in our time for a reason. Look around. Our age is one of chaos, division, distraction beyond anything ancient people could have imagined. If the Archons thrive on confusion, then this is their paradise, which means remembering has never been more urgent. But let's bring this closer to home. Have you ever had a sudden wave of shame, like a voice whispering you're not good enough? Have you ever felt consumed by cravings that lead you into cycles you promised yourself you would break? Have you ever wondered why, despite knowing what's good for you, you keep doing the opposite? The Gnostics would say, that's not weakness, that's interference. The Archons trying to hijack your script. But here's the secret. Every time you recognize it, every time you see the intrusion for what it is, you weaken their hold. Awareness itself is resistance. In the middle of their strange symbolic writings, the Gnostics left clues. Some say Jesus himself appears in these texts not as a distant savior, but as a revealer, one who came to remind humanity of what we had forgotten, that the kingdom is within, that truth is not imposed from outside, but awakened from within. And here's where it all comes together. The forbidden gospels weren't just stories. They were manuals for liberation, guides for those ready to see through the prison. So where does this leave us? If the world is a prison, if the Archons feed on distraction, then every moment of presence is rebellion. Every act of remembering is freedom. The battle isn't fought with swords or politics. It's fought in your awareness, in your breath, in the space between thoughts. And here's the beauty. You don't have to win all at once. Every time you awaken, even for a second, you reclaim a piece of yourself. And the more sparks that awaken, the weaker the Archons become. Now let's return to where we began. What if your thoughts aren't yours? What if the shame, the fear, the endless noise are part of a system designed to keep you small? You could believe it. You could dismiss it. But maybe, just maybe, the fact that you're here, hearing this, is itself the spark calling you. The Gnostics would say it's no accident. They would say, once the truth reaches your ears, the seed is planted, and from there, the real journey begins. So the question is not whether the Archons exist. The question is, will you wake up?